So good morning, everybody. Stephen here from the Soul Man and Friends, and this morning we have got the very lovely John Seery on, as always, on a Tuesday, sometimes a Thursday, but mainly a Tuesday. So today we are just having a chat about all things energy, all things spiritual, all of that jazz. So please do use the comment section to ask as many questions as you want to. That part is so important. Ask anything to do with anything, and we should be able to answer it. So I am going to bring John on. Here we go.
Morning.
Good morning, Seery.
Morning, everybody.
How are you, John?
Better than I was last week.
Oh, good, because you weren't well last week, were you?
No.
Cold.
A lot better this week.
Good. I'm glad. Nothing worse when you're no well, eh? It's terrible.
Oh, I know.
We've got a house full of people that have all got the cold, and I am determined that I am not getting it. And I suppose that kind of goes perfectly into what I want to ask you about today, and that is energy. And can we attract illness to us? So I want to ask you that. So I'm just going to take a note of that just before I forget. Perfect. I will remember. So lots of people are already asking questions. We've got a couple of questions. So Paige is asking a couple of questions actually, which I think is quite a good subject to talk about, because John is a medium, and John's a medium with because John also works with energy and how to photograph energy and record energy, that type of thing. I'm just a medium that can sense things. I'm not a medium that can give you like detailed descriptions of your aura and all of that kind of stuff, but John can. So Paige is asking there, how do you define between what spirits tell you and what's your head? And what your head might.
That's still a scary one, isn't it?
It is.
It is, I know. It's so. I think when at the first stages of mediumship, it's the biggest fight we've got, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is it me? Is it them?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just trying to get your head round that.
Certainly, when I'm working with my students, I find that they'll sometimes hear it like an internal voice that feels like their own. But for me, I work quite differently, because the internal voice that I hear is it's a different voice, it's a different consciousness, and I've always been aware of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that answers that.
It's one of these things as well. It's you feel the energy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll always tell my own students, ask them, they'll tell you. So it's just be testers. So just start off asking like questions with yes, no answers, and it builds the confidence up that way a wee bit.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you for that, John. Next question is energy. Can houses hold bad energy? Interesting.
It is. That energy, it's like leaving your fingerprints, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The minute you touch something, you're putting your energy into it. And you see all these places that are hundreds of years old, and there's lots of bad things happened in there, you pick up on that energy. It's not necessarily bad energy, but you feel, I mean, everybody's able to feel and sense energy. So there's a lot of bad things happened, and you sense that these things have happened just by the energy that's in it.
A good way of clearing that energy as well, you know, like, so, for instance, when we moved into our house, we just felt that the energy, or I just felt that the energy didn't feel right. It felt quite uncomfortable. So what I done was we cleaned the house from top to bottom in its bare shell. We opened all the windows. I burned incense in the house as well. And at that time I was burning dragon's blood in the house. Didn't need sage, which is interesting. If anybody is interested in getting some tips on incense, or whether you need to sage your house with white sage, jump over to our TikTok, because I've put up loads of videos there that will really give you some hints and tips on how to clear energy in a house with just incense alone. Because sage can be quite a brutal way of doing it. Sage is like, right, let's just fill the room, the house with smoke, and then and yeah, just keep doing that as well, John, eh? You know, like,
absolutely.
Open your windows, clean the house, clear the energy, play great music. All of these kind of things just helps to get rid of anything that might feel a wee bit negative.
And then you're putting your own energy into it.
Yeah, because nothing negative can survive in a positive energy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Next question is Paige again. Paige, you're asking loads of questions. I'm loving this. Keep asking. How do you feel about the spiritual side becoming more aware to others, and how TikTok is perceiving it? Will I answer that one, John?
Go for
it. So what I would say is that there is this, I suppose, spiritual boom in recent years, and I think your perception, or people's perception, is always there's always going to be negatives to everything as well. Equally, there's always going to be real positives. The thing that frustrates me or irks me a little bit is people doing like live readings online, that they're giving real, you know, spiritual guidance to the masses. You know, so you see people that have got 500 people watching, and they are giving readings to, you know, randomly selected people out of these 500 people. I think that that's a really negative way of working. And the only reason that I feel like that personally is because I think that any form of spiritual guidance, it should be done in a one-to-one scenario. And the person should have some sort of training. In fact, I believe that that person should have embarked on training and development that's taken them to a point where they can work with people effectively, because people who get readings online could be potentially quite vulnerable people. So we have got this huge, massive part of the Soul Man Academy where we speak very much about personal responsibility, when it's the right time to say no to people. And I think that when you're reading to the masses like that on TikTok lives, on Facebook lives, on Instagram lives, it can cause a lot of problems for people. So, you know, if you have a reading online, it's great, but it should really be one-to-one across Zoom or something like that, where the reader's then able to use their emotional intelligence and understand if you are in the right place to receive spiritual guidance. I don't know if that helps. Do you think that answered that, John?
Yeah, it did. It's absolutely true, though. And you'll probably listen to some of them just the way I have as well. And there are some brilliant ones out there, but there's some could do with a wee bit more training, I would say, to be diplomatic.
Yeah. And I think that, it's when we are reading online, we need to be perceived as professionals. We need to conduct ourselves in a way that's professional, and we need to be very, very mindful of the people that we're working with. So, working with 300 people on a live feed and randomly choosing 6 people, I just don't think it's a great way of working.
Yeah, there's a lot of vulnerable people out there just now, especially people that are in a right tight lockdown. And it's just been careful as well.
Yeah. And I think as well, I'm going to jump across to Paige. Paige, I would not hate your live readings, but what I would say is if you're doing it responsibly, if you're delivering things responsibly, then fine. However, I am aware of many situations where people have been in a very poor place when it comes to their mental well-being, their emotional well-being, and their physical well-being, and they've received some guidance online, and it's caused them huge, big problems in their life. One person I know had a reading, and the reader said, you want to move to Canada. You would really love to move to Canada, wouldn't you? And they're like, yeah. They were commenting, and that person went away and moved to Canada, and it completely destroyed their life. They sold their house, they sold everything, and moved away to Canada. And it was the worst decision that they ever made, all because of spiritual guidance. So it's so important that it's done responsibly. And when I'm training and when I'm reading, when I'm training people to read, that's a huge big part of it. A huge big part of the training. So yeah, don't know if that helps. And another question there from Paige. I'm going to jump up and say that. Where are you? Spirit boxes apps. What's your opinions? What spiritual tools work best for you? John, I'll let you answer that.
I've heard some spirit boxes, and I do believe the spirit world will use these things to communicate with us. I used to do a lot of EVP and that type of thing. I've tried 1 or 2 apps, but I'm not totally convinced. I'm not saying the spirit world won't use them, but for myself, I'm not totally convinced in the apps as yet.
Yeah. I've not used them, but I've seen the evidence of them being used, and when I've been in the room and spirit have been using the box, I have felt them around. I've seen them around in the room. So yeah, I would say that it's possible, and who are we to say that it's not?
Exactly.
Yeah. Louise is saying there, completely agree. I only read on Zoom where I can see their faces and speak to them, check their responses, and if suitable, your training is fab, and we work as a result with the highest respect, honesty, integrity during readings. Thanks, Louise. That's really kind. I think it's so important, though, to have some sort of training, some sort of background where we have learned how to work with people, and recognize where people may have poor emotional well-being and they need more support than just a reading. So
yeah,
it's a minefield, though, when when people are out there working with vulnerable people, it could potentially cause massive problems for you. So be very, very, very careful. Stephanie, I have never had a reading, and it would never something I'd done on a large group setting. I'd want the information to be private and have a one-to-one experience. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that absolutely anything that we're doing should be one-to-one, or one, like in the shop, we've got maybe 2 or 3 people and they all know each other very well, and you're sitting reading one person and the other people are like, yeah, I can understand that is you. So it's nice in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a group of 100 people, though, it's much harder to cascade the information across well. Don't you agree, John?
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's coming from the spirit world as well, if it's a mediumship, spirit world are very careful in how they work as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, they've got their own personal responsibility, so they're not want to see their loved ones in a state of upset in public.
Yeah. Now, I know personally that some of my loved ones, they would never in a million years ever stand there on a stage in front of hundreds of people. So if you've ever been to a public demonstration like that, sorry, my children are Snapchatting me and it's like jumping down the screen on my phone. If you've ever been to a public demonstration and, your loved ones haven't came through, it could just be that, that's not their game. They would not stand in front of a room full of people. So again, as above, so below, the way that the spirit world work. Like if you had a granny who passed, like my granny would never have touched social media or Facebook. So see, if anybody said to me, your granny's trying to communicate with you through Facebook, I'd be like, away you go, beat it. My granny wouldn't touch Facebook.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's just how I see it. Like the spirit world aren't going to use things that they wouldn't have touched in life. They might be experimental with it, and the information might come across a bit grainy, though. Would you agree, John?
Absolutely. And it's true, they've still got the same personality. I mean, I'm similar to yourself. If my dad come through a medium and they started telling me how much they loved me, and I was thinking, no, you've not got my dad there, because he just didn't do that.
Paige is saying there, I think Helen who passed, you spoke at her funeral. She's saying I have to put you on the spot and keep you on your toes with these questions. Well, Helen would certainly be like that, absolutely. So this is Gina. Gina's saying there, I've had a reading over Zoom about a year ago that was really poor. The reader was putting her personal experiences onto me and claiming quite outrageous things about those close to me in my life. And yeah, that's sadly the case. Gina had told me about that last year, that or just not long after she'd had the reading, that it was quite clearly about that person's experience in life. And do you find that, John, that some mediums will, they'll instead of being that abstract person, because as mediums we are the go-between, the communication part of it. We're just that middleman, aren't we?
Exactly. And that is it. I mean, what I like to say to my students is, when you're in that moment for those few minutes and it's losing yourself, any feelings, thoughts, they don't belong to you. They're being impressed.
Yeah.
And again, if you're going to go in and attack people's family like that, you've got to question where's that coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd spoke to a lady a couple of years ago now, and she'd had a reading from a really well-known medium, and the reading was great. She said it was brilliant. It was really, really good. But then the medium started swearing, and she was like, "Your mum's telling you that you need to get a fucking grip," and that's how she would have said it. And she was like, "Oh my God, my mum would never say that." Oh, and it completely devastated her,
Mm-hmm.
and so much so that she's never ever had a reading since. And she paid £140 for that reading for 1 hour. And she was just mortified, absolutely mortified. But I would imagine that the medium wouldn't have known that at the time.
Mm.
And Jackie's watching as well. So Jackie, you'll be able to testify this. Way back, I think maybe about 22 years ago, this girl had came into Albany Street, and she was absolutely like distraught, and she'd had this reading that had been taped. You know how you remember when we had tapes? Well, this reading, it had been taped, and the guy had said, who was a medium, the guy had said that this girl would be she would be 6 feet under, should be in the same place as her mum in 6 weeks' time if she didn't make a lifestyle change. So the girl then went away, John, and she was like absolutely distraught, and there was absolutely nothing that anybody could say to her that would make her feel okay about that until the 6 weeks had passed.
Mm-hmm.
So she lived 6 weeks of absolute torture.
It's the effect that we have in people. And I know me first starting out and work, you'd always get what colour's my aura. And I get so fed up with it, I just started telling them it was black. But then I discovered that they were going to be panicking because I've got a black aura.
Mm-hmm.
So then I had to go and follow them up and tell them I'm only joking. So even at early stages, we do have a big responsibility.
Yeah. People don't quite understand how much responsibility is tied with what we do as well.
Yeah.
And then you've also got the False Mediumship Act, which is actually legislation. It's a legal thing. You can be tried and convicted for false mediumship if it's proved that you were talking a load of bollocks.
Yeah.
So there's that part as well, which is, there's so much that we have to be very mindful of. And
yeah. And nowadays we fall under the Trade Consumers Act.
Yes.
So we're entering into a legally binding contract with people.
Yeah. So that's why we have to be so careful. And I think that absolutely everything that you do when you're reading people, for me, when you're connecting with the spirit world, your job is fundamentally to prove the existence of the human soul beyond reasonable doubt.
That's it.
And your loved ones aren't going to come forward and say, "John, I've got your dad here. Play with me, John, because I know your dad has passed, hasn't he?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So this is not a real reading, just so you know this, right? But if we're speaking like for role play sake, right? John, I've got your dad here, and your dad's telling me that, see that tapestry on the wall behind you, you need to take it down because he hates it. And you've been thinking about getting a new car, haven't you, John?
No.
Come on, play with me.
Yeah.
Right, so your dad's telling you to get a new car. That is so wrong.
Absolutely.
The spirit world should never, ever give any advice on, buying new cars, houses, anything like that. They should be saying, John, here's your dad. This is what he looked like. This is how he passed. This was the relationship that you had with him. These were the last few moments of his life. And he's shown me that after he's passed, this has happened and that's happened, and he's been aware of it. That kind of information is what should always be given by the spirit world.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And then when we're speaking psychically, so any good reader worth their salt should be able to say, right, so now I'm not working with the spirit world. Now I'm picking this up from your energy. So even though your dad's saying there that, you need to take that tapestry down, I quite feel that you quite like that tapestry, John, so you're not going to want to take that down, so I'm going to disagree with that. But can you see where there should be that very clear difference between we're working psychically here and I'm aware of this and I'm sensing this from your energy, and actually this is the spirit world that is here now and they are proving their existence beyond reasonable doubt. Make sense?
Absolutely. It's that simple.
Sorry, I went on my high horse a bit there,
But it's the way it is, though. And it's just when you are passionate about what you do, but you do tend to go at it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I heard the story once. I don't know how true it is. So it's about somebody going to a medium, and the spirit come through like to bet, and they told somebody, right, just for talk's sake, 2:30 of the day, I ask it, put your money on this horse. And the person went and put a lot of money on that horse and it lost.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently they went back to the medium and said to them, and the medium asked, well, when he bet on the horses, did he win a lot? They said, not really, no. Well, there's your answer.
Absolutely, yeah. Rachel's saying there, I've lost someone very close to me recently and it was very sudden. How long do you recommend waiting before attempting a reading? I think it's always one of those things, Rachel, where, like for me personally, I lost my granny in September. My granny was very, very close to me, absolutely adored her. And it all happened really quickly. Within 3 days, she was gone. If someone had said to me, let me give you a reading 6 weeks after she passed, I would have screamed and ran the other way. And that's me as a medium. I had to allow myself to, go through the grieving process and go through the emotion of that. And then now, 6 months, 7 months later, I actually feel like now I could happily sit and receive information from her. So I think when the grieving process has been through the worst, then I would say is a good time. Would you agree, John?
Yeah, because sometimes it is just so raw for people.
Mm.
And when people are that raw, they don't fully accept the reading, they miss out on the whole healing part of it, if you understand. And these readings should be a bit healing as well.
Absolutely. With it as well, I think, there's no real time, I suppose. I had a situation where I was doing a reading for someone and they were expecting their dad to come through. And this was years ago, expecting their dad to come through. And I was like, I've got your mum here. I'm absolutely positive this is your mum. And he's like, no, it can't be my mum because I just left her in a nursing home half an hour ago. I was like, I'm telling you, this is your mum. And he was like, no. And at the time, I suppose I didn't have the emotional intelligence. I was just like, no, this is your mum. But actually, I should have said, okay, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to give you this information on a lady that I feel is like your mother. Anyway, at the time, I was young, I was stupid. I delivered the information anyway. And he was like, well, I can't take it, but thanks, mate, whatever. Right? And then later we found that his mum had passed and that the nursing home had been trying to get a hold of him. So it was that quick, you know. Yeah. For some people, though, it's months.
Yeah, I've had a similar experience like that as well. Just giving information, and just like yourself, the guy said, well, I can take that for somebody here, and they accepted it. And just halfway through the service, he got a text saying that that person had just died. So you're right, it can be that quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Paige, you're asking loads of questions. I like this, though. It's good. So, Paige is saying, do you work with guides? What's your opinion on the guides? What's your opinion on guides, John? Because I know what my opinion on guides is.
Yeah. I call my people my League of Nations. And I've got just, obviously we've got different teams. I wouldn't call them guides. I see them more as helpers, teachers. And that's how they work with me. And I know that I've got this one that oversees it all, and I would see him as my guide as opposed to the rest of them. But it's my team, and they're all my friends.
Yeah, I would say that my view on guides is exactly the same as John's. I've never really been aware of anybody saying, hello, my name's James and I'm your guide, or I'm Little Big Wolf and I'm your guide. However, what I would say is I've always been aware of a team of people that help me. So, same as you, John, but just in a different way, I suppose.
I never feel the need to go and research them or find out who they are. I'm just quite humbled that they've chosen me to work with me. Yeah.
Paige, I'm a firm believer that spirituality is a form or can be a form of mindfulness. So mindfulness is being aware of something and focusing on that one thing. So what I would say is that it may just be that I couldn't say that spirituality is a form of mindfulness. I would say if you're focusing on one part of spirituality, you know, like, I don't know, a way of reading, like tarot cards or whatever that may be, that would be a form of mindfulness. Would you agree, John?
Yeah, I believe that for me, coming into this work, it certainly opened my mind to a lot of things. And I feel, regards to mindfulness, it's pretty much, I don't know if Paige is thinking along that road where it opens your mind to different possibilities, how you look at the world, how you see people.
Yeah. The only reason that I'm quite a stickler for that. So mindfulness and meditation, two things that people talk about an awful lot. Meditation and mindfulness. It's the two things that I teach, and they are my they're my specialist subject, because I've worked so hard in becoming a meditation tutor over the last 20 odd years. And mindfulness is really just about being aware of one thing in your environment, focusing on that and taking your mind off of all of the other distractions. So it could be that if you're focusing on one thing spiritually, you're being mindful. Exactly. But then equally what John's saying there, it's opening your mind to things which wouldn't be mindfulness, but I can see why it would get crossed. Sorry, Paige. Paige will be like, I don't like your question, your answer, Stephen. I don't mean it to be like that. Yeah, so she's saying it gives you a better perception to life. You're absolutely right, Paige. It does. It gives you a better perception to life. It gives you this better understanding, I suppose, of the world, doesn't it, John?
Aye, absolutely. Yeah. Just how you totally look at the world.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump to this question. So, helping mental health but not becoming too disillusioned with the present. There's proof working with guidance cards, tarot cards can help your mental health. What's your views? So, this is a subject that I'm really sorry, John. I'm going to answer this one as well. This is a subject that I'm really, really passionate on. I'm a trained mental health first aider, and I work very, very closely with mental health charities, including the very lovely June from Environmental Health Kick. And I think that there's two answers to your question. So if someone's going through some sort of acute mental health issue in their life, cards, crystals, tarot cards, meditation, and any form of spiritual guidance is not okay. That person needs support and specialist help from a mental health team or a charity who can support them and help them with their well-being. So it depends on what the person's going through. It depends on there's many different factors to that, so it's really hard to answer that question. But yeah, it's important that we are aware of certain I can't even think of the right words. It's important that we're aware of certain things that may show up when we're having a discussion with someone before a reading, where we're thinking, actually, this person needs more than that. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying before there. And many people that we work with, we say, sorry, I'm really sorry, but now's not the right time for a reading. And then we'll signpost them on to people who can help them and support them more with their mental well-being. Don't know if that helps answer that question. But for some people that are going through very small bouts of, and that would be anything from like 1 to 4 weeks, just a small bout of like a bit of anxiety, maybe just a wee bit of depression, it can help lift them out of that. Anything after 3 or 4 weeks, though, that person needs lots of support and lots of help from someone else. So I don't know if that answers that question. Would you agree, John?
Yeah. Yeah, I know that part of my own training as well is people going through grief. Mm-hmm. And again, I know they can use guidance cards as well, just as a wee, whether it's a pick-me-up or to give them a bit of focus. Mm-hmm.
If it's small, like if it's small, so people feeling, a little bit emotionally unwell, a couple of weeks where you've been a bit down and you just need that to lift you. That's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then if it's going on longer than that and someone needs more specialist help, then Yeah, we need to put them in touch with the right people. And I've shared before as well, there's a brilliant charity that I've helped lots of people with, and that is Anxiety UK. So if anybody was going through any short-term anxiety, Anxiety UK are really great. They can help lots with that. We've also got Susan Watson, who's our grief and compassion coach at the Soul Man and Friends. So Susan can help and support with anything more than just a reading. And that's certainly what we'll be doing when we go back to work as well, John, is that anybody that we feel is maybe not in the right place to get a reading, or they're maybe grieving and it's been so difficult for them, we would always say this is not the right time, and then we would pass them on to Susan, who's the grief and compassion coach, who would then support them and help them, and again be able to signpost them to the relevant people who could help. So don't know if that helps. Rachel is asking, do you believe those on the other side can hear us when we speak to them? I've been reading a book by Laura Lynn Jackson, and she mentions a lot that they know when you are speaking to them. So I think the answer to that, and I'll let you answer as well, John, but the answer to that is absolutely and most definitely yes.
Yeah. They pick up on all our thoughts. And it's when we're sending that love out to them, and that's what holds us together.
Mm-hmm.
And people actually get upset when you tell them that they don't have a physical body anymore.
Yeah.
Because they still see being a physical person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just through the mindset. It's mind to mind. I know that a lot of mediums don't like it, but it's a form of telepathy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I'm always very aware. See, when I speak to my granny, for me, I don't just talk out into the air, because that's speaking out into the air. That's a bit rude, actually. It's a bit like saying, "Oi, granny, come here."
Exactly.
So what I would do is I would, sit with a candle, and I would use it almost like a telephone, and I would just say, "Granny, I'm speaking to you, Granny. I hope you can hear me," and I would just say what I want to say, and just be aware of what might come back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and they're always there. They never let us down.
Mm-hmm. Paige is saying there, what is your guidance for those who are developing their gifts?
Practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's first and foremost, it's getting someone that's going to give you quality guidance as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say find a teacher, find a tutor, find someone who you know is going to give you help and support and guidance to get there. Because when you've got all this information flooding at you, it can be quite overwhelming. There can be an awful lot going on, and it's like sometimes it's really hard to be able to filter all that. And I think you need to decide what it is that you want to do as well, because when we talk about being spiritual, you have got many things. Not every single person who is psychic can connect with the spirit world. So if you've got, traits within you where you're sensing stuff from people, you're feeling stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can connect with the spirit world. So, it goes back to that thing where every single psychic in the world isn't necessarily mediumistic, but every medium should be able to connect psychically as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's like figure out what it is that you want to do. Do you want to do mediumship? Do you want to do tarot cards? And focus on that one thing, learn it, learn its craft, open the bonnet of it, pull it apart, learn everything that you can about it, spend years doing it as well. And I know that that might sound really frustrating for some people, but I remember way back when I first started learning tarot cards 20 years ago, and I'm sitting there like, wow, I just want to be really good at this. And it's taken me 20 years to actually really, really, really be good and understand the tarot inside out. So it's not going to come flying at you quickly. And I think when you try and make it too quick, what happens, John? You know this.
You burn out.
And it almost gets removed completely from you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To allow you to. It's a bit like if your car is going for miles and miles and miles and you haven't had it serviced, it's going to break down.
Exactly.
And the servicing part of it is that you're taking time to develop, and you're taking time to, feed your engine the right fuel so that you can then work effectively with people. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny enough, I described it to a group of people as like having a car, like having disability. But if you've got this big shiny car and you're just going to sit in the driveway and not do anything with it, eventually it's just going to rust and fall apart.
Absolutely. Kelly saying there, I think of my brother, and most of the time he comes to me. He was showing off when we did the aura demonstration. He comes around me like that lots. He never used to when my grief was raw. I see death differently now, and he comes in often. Yeah, I think that's something that we should all be mindful of, the way, that...
Yeah.
That when we have grieved and went through the pain of loss, then we can actually start to properly sense them again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that's when their responsibility comes in as well. They know when we're ready to hear from them.
Yeah. Roger is saying, what is the silver cord? So I have never heard of the silver cord. It could be that some people have. I don't know if you mean etheric cords. It could, because that's the first thing that jumps to my mind. Etheric cords, where you make attachments to people, and you've got that etheric cord. So there's the, how energy works is that we make connections to people, many people throughout our lives. So it could be that. Or sometimes I have heard people talking about where our connection to the spirit world is like a silver cord. But I don't see it like that, John. Do you?
No. You couldn't really be connected to the spirit world like that. So when I read the question, I got the vision of Johnny Darko with the energy coming out. And as much as we get through that, we're given a lot ourselves.
Paige is asking about moldavite. Be really careful with moldavite. Moldavite is a crystal that personally you shouldn't really have on your person. You can take moldavite out and you can use it for short periods of time, but put it in a nice wee box and put it away somewhere nice and bring it out whenever you want to use it, because moldavite is it's one of those level up crystals. Would you agree, John? Have you ever experienced moldavite?
I haven't, no.
Oof. I've got a piece of moldavite that's maybe about the size of an ashtray, you know, like it's maybe about that size. And it was gifted to me, and oh my God, I can't even have it in the room near me. It can be really intense, a very, very intense crystal. So just be careful. We have it, but yet to list it on our Etsy Crystal Cove gifts. Yeah. Paige is saying there it makes her pulse. It does. It's intense stuff. It really is intense. But I suppose if you're very sensitive to energy, you're going to feel it like that anyway. And I would imagine that every medium, every person who's sensitive will feel quite intense energy from it. Absolutely. Kelly saying, "Oh my God, bring it into work so I can experience it." Yeah. It is quite intense. It's one of those ones where I always think when I hold a piece of moldavite, it's like it sucks me in. Yeah. And Paige, you sell it in your Etsy shop? Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody fancies a wee bit of moldavite, go and jump onto Paige's Etsy shop. Paige, just to double check, what is it that you run again? Sorry, John.
That's okay. Stop her asking questions.
Yeah, Crystal Cove Gifts, I think it is. All right, okay. You've not listed it yet. That's fine. Yeah, Paige, you can send us a wee message and we'll have a wee chat about that. Victoria, what's your opinion on those we have lost being able to come to us in dreams? Do you think it's just simply a dream, or sometimes it's there a wee bit more? No, ask the questions. That's completely fine. So, what is your thoughts on that, John? I know what my thoughts on it are, but I'll let you answer first.
Well, I get lots of visits in dreams, and I tend to find the dreams are realistic, where you're actually hugging closely your loved ones.
Yeah.
For me, it's a visit. And I tend to ask them, even ask like my own team, if there's something I'm supposed to learn, just show me in my dream. And you'll see it playing out. And it might just be for just that fleeting minute. So it's not like they take up the whole of the night and burn your energy up. It's just enough just to let you know they're there, they're still about, and they're still a big part of you. So yeah, for me, they are able to come to us in dreams. And not forgetting sometimes as well what's going on in the subconscious, where they might be in a dream, but they're not visiting as such, if you can understand what I mean by that. But when you know they're there, you know.
Yeah, I think I would completely agree with John. So when a wee bit of the science behind that is when we are dreaming, when we are in that state of deep sleep, our energy is in, or our vibration, I suppose, if you like it, if you want to talk in science terms, our vibration is in a form of delta brainwaves. So when we are in a delta state, our brain waves, they're very heightened, they're very they're not like our normal waking consciousness would be. So what happens is that the spirit world come in and they come down to that level. They don't have the conscious, awake, alert mind that goes between 13 and 30 hertz, which is, anyway, that's a completely different. I could go into a huge big subject with that, but when our brainwaves are awake, they're vibrating at around about 30. So when we are in that delta state, they're right down at 4 hertz. So they're very low. They're very whoa, 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 like this. So the spirit world will move their energy down, and it's much easier for them to permeate our dreams and show us things. However, what will happen is our conscious mind will then start to try to filter it and try to work it out. So it might be that your dreams will come across as the people that you love doing silly things in your dreams, and that. I suppose that's just a way where they're showing us things, but our conscious mind is trying to interpret it. Does that make sense? Does it make sense to you, John?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps, Rachel, but I would almost definitely say that if you've had an experience where you've felt your loved ones in your dreams, it could be one of two things. It could be that because you're going through the grieving process, of course, your subconscious mind is going so your subconscious mind is trying to deal with that and sort that out. But then when they're coming forward in your dreams, when they're trying to connect with you in your dreams, your subconscious mind or your conscious mind will also try and sort with that and deal that out. So does that even make sense? I'm sure it does. It makes sense in my mind.
Yeah.
Leona is asking, what's your thoughts about past lives? Do you want to answer that one? I know what my thoughts are on it.
Yeah. I've not done a lot on past lives. However, I'm now opening my mind to it. And I know that people get a lot of healing from past life regressions. It's not something I've experienced myself. But again, it's with my logical mind, they would need to prove it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm exploring that so I can get my own proof out of it. I don't mean that they've got to show me things or do things, but for me, it needs to be a wee bit more evidential. But that's just my thinking. But I'm exploring it now, and I'm opening my mind to it. Whereas before, I was just so closed off.
So my experience of past lives is quite different. So I feel like I've been here many times before. In fact, I don't feel, I know that I've been here many times before. I also feel that I am that this is going to sound like it's my ego talking, and it's definitely not, I promise you, right? But I also feel like I'm very evolved in my work spiritually. So I feel like I've learned many, many, many lessons through these lives that I've led. I've also had past life regression, which many times as well, which has confirmed all my feelings, which is really good because that's tapping into the subconscious mind, which, yeah. However, I did not have good experiences with the regressions because my passings, my deaths, and the living conditions that I was living in were quite horrific. And I think that's the part of things where, You know, we come from this society that was built on pain, war, all of these horrendous conditions that we had to live through as humans. Now we live in the most safest, sanitized times ever known to man. But I lived through some horrible, horrible experiences in my past lives. This isn't something I speak about very often, but I believe that what happens is that we move in soul groups. We move in groups of, you know, so like your friends, your family, your mother, your father, your teachers, all of these people are kind of within your soul group. And what happens is that as your family pass back to the spirit world, you then have the choice when you pass whether you want to like spend some time there, do different things, or you can then be reincarnated back to this life to learn more. So that's my views on it.
I have spoken to people and I've listened to what they had to say, and it was more recently, and kids are brilliant for it. So kids have still got the memories. And it was a girl who was telling us how her friend contacted her and said about her child. They were going by some castle. They were able to describe their life in that castle. They could name the people that were there at that time and what happened to them. So I do believe there's something. So as I said, I'm opening my mind to it a wee bit more now.
It really is a very fascinating subject, and I suppose none of us are going to ever have the answers until we're dead. So it's as simple as that. You know, everything that John and I are speaking about are our opinions, and opinions are like bums. Everybody's got a bum. Opinions are like a nose. Everybody's got a nose actually. But you know, it is only our opinion. So obviously, none of us are going to know until we actually go to the spirit world, which I think is just amazing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, they say your fears can be linked to past lives as well. And Kelly's saying there that past life regression was a really great experience for her. Rachel Victoria, the book Many Minds, Many Masters is a good insight to past lives if anyone's interested. Thanks for that, Victoria. Rachel, sorry. That's terrible. I look at names on the screen and I pick out the wrong name all the time. Sorry, Rachel. That's really good. Thank you for that. And again, that's what it's all about. Sharing your experiences and sharing what people have been through and what people have understood in their own life. So brilliant. Thanks for that question. No. So yeah, that is us done and dusted.
It was a quick hour.
Oh, it was a really fast hour today, wasn't it? So yeah, thank you, John. Keep the conversation going though, guys. Keep chatting away in the comment section after the live has finished. And yeah, tomorrow I will see you guys for James's last Soul Man surgery. John, thanks for today.
It's not a problem.
We've bashed out a good few questions. Thanks to Paige as well, because Paige just came on and asked loads of questions, and that's really good. Thank you very much for that, Paige. So everybody, we shall see you tomorrow with James Hughes. John, I will see you next Tuesday.
As always.
Okay. See you all later.
Bye. See you later, folks. Bye.
Bye.
Be strong.